As time progressed, our group, the airbenders, witnessed how the earth, our sky, our atmosphere changed due to the various events caused by humans. With our learnings and realizations as to how the Earth's air and oxygen cycle has been drastically affected, we decided to be advocates that will help the Earth in solving this matter. Now, I present to you our project entitled Breath of Awareness in Educate, Inform, and Change the Way We Live.
Good day, everyone. My name is Earl Mikel Galvan, and I'm going to discuss to you the definition of air, its properties, and its importance. Air is a physical substance. It is a combination of several gases, the majority of which are prevalent in the environment. Its pressure can be measured through the unit of air pressure. It is the weight of air on a unit area of the Earth. Air is made up of roughly 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 0.9% argon, 0.04% carbon dioxide, and extremely minute amounts of other gases. Water vapor makes up around 1% of the atmosphere. So what are the properties of air? Air is a homogeneous mixture of gases. Air has mass. Air is affected by heat. Air exerts pressure. Air occupies space. Air expands. And lastly, air can be felt. So for the last part, what is the importance of air? Apart from giving us oxygen to breathe, air helps our lives in a variety of ways. However, air also includes a large quantity of man-made air pollutants, including some that are dangerous to breathe and many others that contribute to global warming. These phenomena, caused by the human pollution, shall give heads up to the society before it's too late. The Earth's atmosphere is just as important as the forests, rivers, and other environments that we are trying to save.
Oxygen cycle is the transport of oxygen through the atmosphere, biosphere, and lithosphere. The oxygen cycle shows how free oxygen is produced, accessible in each of these areas, and how it is utilized. Although the Earth's crust has the biggest store of oxygen, the majority of it is bound in mineral compounds and hence inaccessible. Photosynthesis, a process in which plants employ carbon dioxide and light and water to make oxygen from carbon dioxide, is the most significant contributor to the oxygen cycle. As a result, the carbon and oxygen cycles are inextricably linked. Stages of oxygen cycle. Stage 1. All green plants during the process of photosynthesis release oxygen back into the Earth's atmosphere as a byproduct. Number 2. All aerobic organisms use free oxygen for respiration. Number 3. Animals exhale carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere, which is again used by the plants during photosynthesis. Now, oxygen is balanced within the atmosphere.
Next, we move on to anthropogenic effects. They are the effects derived, influenced, or affected by human activities. First, we have combustion. How does it affect the oxygen cycle? Combustion in industrial locations and in vehicles creates an abundance of carbon dioxide. Next, we have global warming, which causes drought and affects the water supply needed for plants in the oxygen cycle. It also increases the threat of wildfires. Next is urbanization and population growth. This may lead to more pollution, emission, consumption of natural resources, and deforestation. Next, we have mining. So this may contaminate areas and release greenhouse gases. Water sources become acidic and toxic with heavy metals. And water is needed in the oxygen cycle. They can also be polluted by human waste and agricultural runoff. Next is overgrazing. So excessive land use such as mining and logging relocates animals. They become concentrated in one area, leading to plant deterioration. Next, we have the connection of Le Chatelier's principle on anthropogenic effects. So the principle states that If an equilibrium is disrupted, there will be a counteract to that disturbance. For example, the equilibrium of the oxygen cycle is disrupted due to carbon dioxide increase. An increase in plant photosynthesis counteracts it. So, an increase in plant photosynthesis due to CO2 is called carbon dioxide fertilization effect.
Next, let us discuss about invasive species. For its definition, invasive species can be any kind of living organism that is non-native or not indigenous to a certain area. These species can cause major ecological and economic problems as well as threaten human health. Invasive species are non-native living organisms, but not all non-native species are considered to be invasive. For a living organism to be considered invasive, it must adapt to the new area easily, reproduce quickly, spread aggressively, and harm property, the economy, the environment, and other native species in the area. Aside from this, invasive species may also reduce biodiversity by causing extinctions of native plants and animals since they compete for limited resources and alter habitats. Lastly, how do we eradicate invasive species? There have been a variety of methods to try to get rid of invasive species. However, some methods are not advisable as they cause more problems. Sometimes, other species are introduced to an area to help control invasive species, but this can be risky since these species can also become invasive. Some have also tried using chemicals, but this method can harm native plants and animals. One way to eradicate them is to educate the public about invasive species and be more careful when going to new places. We can be more careful by regularly cleaning equipment used outdoors when coming from new places. We can also identify invasive species in our areas and report sightings if there are any.
The pollution of the air has occurred due to erroneous activities, which has resulted in the epigenetics of the oxygen cycle. Epigenetics is the study of how your behaviors and environment can affect the activity of your genes. The emeritus of epigenetics and DNA methylation has had a significant impact on the oxygen cycle. When a chemical group is introduced to DNA, it turns off genes in most cases. This group generally added to some DNA sections, preventing DNA binding proteins from reading the gene and causing something strange to happen in our bodies. As a result, we are more susceptible to cancer, cardiovascular disease, and respiratory disease. Furthermore, it has the potential to have a long-term detrimental respiratory health consequences. Though it may seem improbable, a recent study reveals that taking a B vitamin supplement and exercising daily can help protect against particular epigenetic consequences connected to air pollution. Finally, a better knowledge of how exposure-induced alterations in DNA methylations influence health in acute and chronic conditions could lead to preventive and therapeutic techniques for reducing morbidity in polluted environments.
After hearing all the knowledge and information that we presented regarding our air and oxygen cycle, let's all be part of the solution and not the pollution. Any solution that you can think of will help the environment a lot.